Good glory morning, everybody. Welcome back to the series Day 16. Been doing it for the last few months here. So we're going to go ahead and start. We finished Job, and now we're going to go through Genesis. So Genesis 12, the call of Abraham. Now the Lord said to Abram, go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. Now I'll make of you a great nation, and I'll bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you I will curse. In you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. So Abram went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. And Abram took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all the possessions that they had gathered, and the people that they had acquired in Haran, and they set out to go to the land of Canaan. When they came to the land of Canaan, Abram passed through the land to the place at Shechem, to the oak of Moreh. At that time the Canaanites were in the land. Then the Lord appeared to Abram and said, to your offspring I'll give this land. So he built there an altar to the Lord, who had appeared to him. From there he moved to the hill country on the east of the Bethel, pitched his tent with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. And there he built an altar to the Lord, and called upon the name of the Lord. And Abram journeyed on, still going toward the Negeb. And then next part is Abram's in Sarai in Egypt. Now there was a famine in the land, so Abram went down to Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was severe in the land. When he was about to enter Egypt, he said to Sarah his wife, I know that you are a woman beautiful in appearance, and when the Egyptians see you, they will say, this is his wife. Then they will kill me, but they will let you live. Say, you are my sister, that it may go well with me because of you, and that my life may be spared for your sake. When Abram entered Egypt, the Egyptians saw that the woman was very beautiful. And when the princes of Pharaoh saw her, they praised her to Pharaoh, and the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. And for her sake he dealt well with Abram, and he had sheep, oxen, male donkeys, male servants, female donkeys, and camels. But the Lord afflicted Pharaoh and his wife and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. So Pharaoh called Abram and said, what is this you have done to me? Why did you not tell me that she was your wife? Why did you say she is my sister? So I took her for my wife. Now then, here is your wife, take her and go. And Pharaoh gave orders concerning him, and they sent him away with his wife and all that he had. So, great chapter. I think it's good to point out that it wasn't Abram was chosen not just for his sake or his people's sake, but also for all the families of the earth shall be blessed through Abram. And this kind of points eventually to Jesus. So it's really good. And it's crazy that God can use sinners like Abram, who lied to Pharaoh, the Pharaoh of Egypt, about his wife being his sister. Genesis 13, Abram and Lot separate. So Abram went out from Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him into the Negeb. Now Abram was very rich in livestock, and silver, and in gold. And he journeyed on from the Negeb as far as Bethel, to the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Ai, to the place where he had made an altar at the first, and there Abram called upon the name of the Lord. And Lot, who went with Abram, also had flocks and herds and tents, so that the land could not support both of them dwelling together, for their possessions were so great that they could not dwell together. There was strife between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. And at that time the Canaanites and the Perizzites were dwelling in the land. Then Abram said to Lot, let there be no strife between you and me, and between your herdsmen and my herdsmen, for we are kinsmen. Is not the whole land before you? Separate yourself from me. If you take the left hand, then I'll go to the right, or if you take the right hand, then I'll go to the left. Then Lot lifted up his eyes and saw that the Jordan Valley was well watered, everywhere like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, in the direction of Zoar. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So Lot chose for himself all the Jordan Valley, and Lot journeyed east. Thus they separated from each other. Abram settled in the land of Canaan, while Lot settled among the cities of the valley and moved his tent as far as Sodom. Now the men of Sodom were wicked, great sinners against the Lord. And the Lord said it to Abram, after Lot had separated from him, lift up your eyes and look from the place where you are northward and southward and eastward and westward. For all the land that you see, I will give to you and to your offspring forever. I'll make your offspring as the dust of the earth, so that if one can count the dust of the earth, your offspring also can be counted. Rise, walk through the length and the breadth of the land, for I will give it to you. So Abram moved his tent, came and settled by the oaks of Mamre, which are at Hebron, and there he built an altar to the Lord. So, good. What is a Negeb?
Strong's H 5045. Negev.
Negative.
Negev.
Negative. Region of southern New Judah, boundaries not specific. Huh. Okay. Well, that's cool. Let's keep reading. So Genesis 14, 1 through 16 is Abram rescues Lot. So in the days of Amraphel, the king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasar, Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of Goim. These kings who made war with Bera, king of Sodom, Bersha, king of Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admah, Shemeber, king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is Zoar. And all these joined forces in the valley of Sidon, that is the Salt Sea. 12 years they had served Chedorlaomer, but in the 13th year they rebelled. In the 14th year, Chedorlaomer and the kings who were with him came and defeated the Rephaim and Ashtaroth, Kanim, and Zuzim and Ham, Demim and Sheva Kirathim, and the Horites in the hill country of Seir, as far as El Paran on the border of the wilderness. They turned back, came to En Mizpat, that is Kadesh, and defeated all the country of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites who were dwelling in Hazazon Tamar. And the king of Sodom, the king of Gomorrah, the king of Admah, the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is Zoar, went out and they joined battle in the valley of Siddim, with Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, Tidal, king of Goim, Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Elasar, 4 kings against 5. Now the valley of Siddim was full of bitumen pits, and as the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, some fell into them, and the rest fled to the hill country. So the enemy took all the possessions of Sodom and Gomorrah and all the provisions and went their way. They also took Lot, the son of Abram's brother, who was dwelling in Sodom, and his possessions, and went their way. Then one who had escaped came and told Abram the Hebrew, who was living by the oaks of Mamre, the Amorite, the brother of Eshcol and Aner. These were allies of Abram. When Abram heard that his kinsman had been taken captive, he led forth his trained men born in his house, 318 of them, and went in pursuit as far as Dan. And he divided his forces against them by night. He and his servants defeated them and pursued them to Hobah, north of Damascus. Then he brought back all the possessions, and all brought back his kinsman Lot with his possessions, and his woman and the people. Abram blessed Melchizedek. Genesis 14, 17 to 24 is, or the rest of chapter 14, honestly, is Abram blessed by Melchizedek. After this, his return from the defeat of Chedorlaomer and the kings who were with them, the king of Sodom went out to meet him at the valley of Sheba, that is the king's valley. Cool. Yeah, it's kind of references to Hebrews 7, or Hebrews 7 references this later. Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was a priest of God Most High. He blessed him and said, Blessed be Abram by God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth. And blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hand. And Abram gave him a tenth of everything. And the king of Sodom said to Abram, Give me the persons, but take the goods for yourself. For Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted my hand to the Lord, God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth, that I would not take a thread or a sandal strap or anything as yours, lest you should say, I made Abram rich. I would take nothing but what the young men had eaten, and the share of the men who went with me. Let Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre take their share. Huh. It's crazy that, he led forth his trained men born in his house. So Tamri, whoever was Abram's descendants, he took 318 of them. Yeah, that's just amazing. I love the reference of Hebrews here. Melchizedek is a very interesting character, and he's mentioned all the time. See the last chapter. God's covenant with Abram, mentioned also in Hebrews 11. After these things, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. Fear not, Abram, I am your shield. Your reward shall be very great. But Abram said, O Lord God, what will you give me? For I continue childless, and the heir of my house is Eliezer of Damascus. Abram said, Behold, you have given me no offspring. A member of my household will be my heir. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him. This man shall not be your heir, your very own son shall be your heir. And he brought him outside and said, Look toward heaven and number the stars. If you are able to number them, then he said to them, So shall your offspring be. And he believed the Lord, and he counted it to him as righteousness. And he said to him, I am the Lord who brought you out from Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land to possess. But he said, O Lord God, how am I to know that I shall possess it? He said to him, Bring me a heifer 3 years old, a female goat 3 years old, a ram 3 years old, a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And he brought him all these, cut them in half, and laid each half over each against the other, but he did not cut the birds in half. And when the birds of prey came down on the carcasses, Abram drove them away. As the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell on Abram, and behold, dreadful and great darkness fell upon him. The Lord said to Abram, Know for certain that your offspring will be sojourners in a land that is not theirs, and will be your servants there, and they will be afflicted for 400 years. But I will bring judgment on the nation that they serve, and afterward they shall come out for great possessions. After you shall go to your fathers in peace, you shall be buried in good old age, and it shall come back here in the fourth generation, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete. When the sun had gone down and it was dark, behold, a smoking fire pot and a flaming torch passed between those pieces. On that day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, To your offspring I give this land from the river of Egypt to the great river, the river Euphrates, the land of the Canaanites, the Kenizzites, and the Cadmonites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Rephaim, the Amorites, Canaanites, the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. It's crazy. When I was like 8 years ago, when I was first reading this or reading Genesis, it's very easy to go past all this stuff, but it's not. Notably, these last 4 chapters are probably the most critical in Genesis to understand, because it talks about salvation. It talks about how Abram believed the Lord and he counted to him as righteousness. From the very beginning, it was by faith. And Paul uses this argument in Romans when he talked about justification and through faith. And I think it's very amazing that starting in verse 12 of this chapter, as the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell on Abram, behold, a dreadful and great darkness fell upon him. That's terrifying. And the Lord, basically what we're going to read about later in Exodus, is warning Abram about what's going to happen to his descendants for 400 years, 400 long years. And that's basically what starts off Exodus. So this is an amazing foreshadow that blew my mind when the first time I realized this and noticed it. But yeah. Thank you guys for joining me today. Feel free to go into a time of worship and prayer, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.